Some hand quizzes today. It's play day. It's Saturday, so we're not going to go too crazy, but we can definitely wake up with some quizzes. I believe this is Faraz Jaka doing this one. Let's go.
7-6 suited in the small blind, 40 big
Sorry.
blinds deep, facing an open. We are in a $215 online tournament. 7-6 suited in the small blind, 40 big blinds deep, facing an open from the cutoff. Villain is an unknown. We can call here. We can 3-bet to 800, or we can fold.
These are always kind of weird to me because I feel like I should be 3-betting them more. But I'm just going to call in this case because I'm unsure and I don't want to fold the hand and I don't know if I want to 3-bet it. So I'm just going to call.
I'm just going to be flatting here. 3-betting I would like a lot better if we were deeper, maybe 60 big blinds, but I prefer to even be deeper than that. In the 100 big blind range, I'm much happier 3-betting this.
Okay.
Just that shallower stacks. You want to have blockers. You'd rather have, King 10 suited, Queen 9 suited, Ace X suited, Ace 10 offsuit, King Queen off. These types of hands. Even just suited broadways. The smaller cards just don't do as well. Shallower. So by 3-betting, we're even lowering the SPR. Whereas we would rather the SPR bigger. And that's stack to pot ratio, of course. So by calling, we keep the SPR nice and big. Big blind folds. Flop is 9-5-4, 1 heart, 2 diamonds. We'll go ahead and check it. Opponent c-bets about 1/3 of the pot. We can call. We can check raise to 670, or we can fold.
Interesting, because we could definitely check raise and take this pot down right here. But if we make it 670 and the player calls for 470, so that puts 1320, 1120, 1160, 1760 in the pot. So we can definitely get a check raise bet out of this. We do have all the equity. If it was just a flush draw or just a straight draw, I think I'd be more inclined to check call. But we should also be good here, and this is kind of tough though. It's a 215 online. Maybe we just do this one as a call and expect to see a lot of check on the turn, and then we can bet the river if we miss. Yeah, I'm going to go with that kind of tempo. I think that's fine. Yeah, check raise.
Both check raising and check calling are totally fine options here. I slightly prefer a check raise. We don't have any showdown value, and if we check call and the turn is a 10 or higher, opponent is going to bet a lot, and we're not going to be able to continue, which sucks. So it just feels a little easier to realize our equity if we check raise here. Again, I'm open to both, but I think this is slightly better. And we're also deep enough where I don't think the opponent is just going to jam here that often. If opponent was jamming a lot, then we might lean towards check calling because it's easier to realize our equity that way if the opponent is going to jam over our check raise, which maybe they do if we're shallower. So we go ahead and check raise, opponent calls, turn, deuce of diamonds. We can bet 800, small bet. We could bet 1200, larger bet, or we could just check it.
So this has now gotten much more complicated. The kind of hands that are going to call us are overs with a diamond, flush draws, over pairs. So this just got a lot more complicated. So I don't think barreling does us as much good as checking. And if we bet, I don't think I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess the bet is like 800. I wouldn't. I would bet a little bit more than that. Um, my original intention was to bet somewhere around 12 and then have the jam for the river, but that diamond kind of really complicates things. Plus, we want to look as strong as possible. Again, this is, I think, is a tempo thing. At the levels I play, the check call, check check, bet river is far more common, I think. Um, I think I check it and allow the river to roll off, and if the river comes no diamond, then we can lead. But then again, Faraz is so well thought out. I don't know, and I'm just waking up, so.
When
Okay, the bet was 2/3 pot, 1200.
you check raise on a flop and the turn comes a flush card, completing the flush, you could almost just memorize that it's almost always going to be a 1/3 bet you want to make. That's assuming you're taking the TKO approach. Of course, if you have some reads on your opponent that they're going to overcall or overfold to a larger bet, then obviously feel free to switch it up. But without any info, standardly with our entire range, if we decide to bet, we want to bet a third of the pot here. And the reason is you're going to want to keep betting your 9x, at least your better ones. You're going to keep wanting to bet your two pairs, your sets, your straight if you turn a straight. And with all those cans, you don't necessarily want to put a ton of chips in the pot, but you do want to bet. You do feel like you have the best hand. You need some protection. So betting small with our flush, if we had a flush, allows us to keep betting our two pairs or sets, and it allows us to set the price and get a nice cheap river when we have something like 6-7. We have something like ace-6 with the diamond, or really any ace of diamonds here. So yeah, our entire bet range just really benefits using the small size. Opponent calls, river is a 9. What do we want to do now? We're either going to shove or give up and check.
Well, we've taken the approach that we were check raising with a flush draw, betting a flush on the turn, and now jamming the river. Plus, we can do that with all 9s, 9-5 sets, all things like that. I think it's most likely our opponent has the ace of diamonds, so if we check, he's going to bet every time. The move here is all in, I think. Yep.
I like betting here on the river.
And it's a bet, but the only bet you have left is 2,300 because there's more than that in the pot.
I think checking is okay. I can't blame you for wanting to give up, but if there's a card we're going to continue on when we have the 6-7, I think this is a pretty good river because there are some 9s, or there's a lot of 9s we might check raise in the flop. On the turn, we're going to be tempted to keep betting small with some of them. He has a lot of overs, he has a lot of diamonds, he has a lot of ace-x. So we have a lot of incentive to keep betting a 9 still on the turn. And now if he's got some sort of overpair, we actually have a chance to get him off of it. He's going to be scared of the straight, he's going to be scared of the flush, going to be scared of the 9 now. And we don't have any diamonds in our hand either, which actually hurts us a little bit because he might hero with some diamonds. So that is not the best thing, but I just think we get to bet so much here on this card. We get to bet so often that we're willing to be a little more liberal with our bluffs. And even though we don't have a diamond blocker, we still may be willing to go with it here. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and shove and take my chances here in this spot.
Pretty good. I agree. This is a good one for me because on the flop, check raising, and then checking the turn is a leak I have. I kind of overthink it, and I find that one of my main problems is overthinking situations because it's like, ooh, well, if I'm check raising with a flush draw and I just made the flush, well, then I wouldn't want to bet him off it. No, but if I did have the flush, I would want to continue betting in reality, but I could just bet small because I'm not afraid of anything. So betting 1/3 on the turn there is a good exception to my rule of your biggest bets come on the turn. Typically, your biggest bets come on the turn 2/3 or better because it's where you make the biggest statement in the hand. Because after the turn gets called, it's pretty much the player's heroing and wants to see if you're going to jam or he's got you nutted. So, it's a very polarized river spot to bet or check. And with a flush, this is exactly how I would have played it. So Yeah. Okay, so I got to remember that. Betting on the turn. I'm actually going to write that one down. That's a. Man, I got 3 notes here, or 4 notes, and 3 of them are from Faraz Jaka in the last week. So, check, raise, flop, um, turn, most likely draw, i.e. flush draw, comes in bet 1/3 pot 2 bet bet bet. It's amazing. The guy is so well thought out. It's really fascinating to hear his philosophies, and they're very true. And I think he lays them out in very interesting and simple ways that I think anybody can understand. Moving on.
Tristan Wade with poker coaching and have a hand from $1,000 no limit WSOP MTT. Under the gun folds. And what should you do here with 2/8? We got 44 big blinds. Should we just fold it? Should we limp? Or should we raise to 650?
It is on the cusp. I believe 6s is the fold. You know what? Let's look it up. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-handed. Okay, in the cutoff hijack, lowjack, under the gun +1, with 44 big blinds. I think the cutoff to fold is 6s, and we are raising with 7s or better. Let's go to the tools section. This is always good stuff to do. If you're not 100% sure and you're kind of guessing, you always want to check the pre-flop charts, because I might even be too tight. 5s I know you don't play, but I'm not sure. I think 6s is the line. So 40 big blinds, under the gun +1, raise first in. Ooh, what? What? Is it when we have more big blinds that I'm... Wow, I'm way too tight. So we can play 4s from under the gun +1? Really? What about under the gun? Yeah, we can still play 4s. Maybe it's the stack? So what? At 60 big blinds, it's less. At 80 big blinds, it's about the same. At 30 big blinds, it's less. Wow, look at that. At 30 big blinds, 5-5, under the gun +1. Under the gun it was there. 5-5 is the open, under the gun +1 at 30 big blinds. But at 40 big blinds, it's 44. But at 80 big blinds, it becomes less. It becomes not 100%. That's interesting. Now I got to see 25. Yeah, 25 is less. 20. All right, well, a lot of people are on the site. So it's a raise.
Now, if we had a smaller pair like deuces, 3s, or 4s, maybe you could make the argument for folding some of those hands. They might not play as well on a short stack. And I know some people like limping these hands, but I think you're just going to find yourself in a lot of trouble if you do see a flop and you allow people to enter the pot with wide ranges behind you. So this is a pretty mandatory raise with 2/8 here. So we do raise to 650. The low jack calls behind us. And action folds to the small blind, who's unknown aggressor, who 3-bets to 3K. Now, what should we do here? Should we fold, should we call, or should we go all in?
These can be scary. And that is a huge bet. Like a standard 3-bet here would have been, let's see, 650 would have been about 26. I guess it's standard because he's out of position. You can add an extra blind. So 3K is fine. I think we're calling here. I don't want to jam it because we still have a lot of playability. 2,400 to call. We'll still have 10,000 left. that leaves us with about 33 blinds. It's a lot to go in on this hand, but at the same time, the expected value is amazing. So we hit an 8 and we just get it all. And it's an unknown aggressive player. So, and he's got 83 big blinds, so he's using his big stack. So I think this is fine. I don't know. I think if I had 30 blinds, I would definitely jam this or fold it. But I think we can actually call in this exact scenario. I don't agree. I truly don't agree here.
If you know the small blind is very aggressive
You said he's an unknown aggro.
here, then I think 2 8s could be a candidate to move all in here. I know if we had a hand like 2 10s, it might be hard to fold this, especially if the small blind is ever 3-bet.
Okay, I gotta go back because I'm truly disagreeing with this as a fold. The player behind us doesn't ever have a pair better than us, too. You have to consider that. The player behind us not 3-betting, he's not going to flat call with jacks when we open from under the gun +1. It's just not going to happen. So that leaves 9s and 10s maybe, but even 10s get 3-bet? No. So the player behind is dead money. So that makes it an easier call. So we have 40 blinds. Our position is under the gun +1. We are facing a 3-bet, standard 3-bet, I would say, for the situation from the small blind. What's our calling and jamming range? Pocket 8s is 100% a call. I really don't like this because Tristan has quite a few hands where he's retroactively perfect, where he made a mistake in game and then called it perfect later. This is 100% a call. These are the guidelines I use. We have position also, and there's dead money. No, I disagree. I disagree, and I was right to disagree. We're supposed to call with all these hands for the same reason, and this is without a caller behind. With the caller behind, we should be calling even more stuff because the player behind is never going to rejam. This is never going to be a rejam. It's 98 big blinds. Unless he has exactly aces or kings and is trapping this guy specifically, this is never going to do anything other than call or fold.
Bluffing and 3-bet folding.
I'm not even listening to this shit. This is garbage. Fuck that quiz. And I'm not an arrogant guy. I mean I am in certain situations when I play poker, but when I know things, I'm not being a dick. But I mean, these charts have been meticulously pored over by Jonathan Little and a solver, and it took a long time to get here. And I'll even lower this. I'll even say, well, I can't because we're going to have 33 after the call. At what point should you be folding 8s? Like, 8s is an all-in or a call at 30 big blinds. Okay? Well, let's go higher. 60 big blinds. It's still 100% a call. Like, what is he talking about? That's just incorrect. I'm not even going to listen to his fucking summary. Fuck that guy. Hopefully I know Lexi Gavin will be better off for us. So this is a 1-2 no limit cash with ace jack in the hijack. Love it.
Hey everyone, Lexi Gavin here, and today we're going to go over a hand that I played at a 1-2 no limit cash game. So let's jump right into the action here. So a fold to the low jack. The low jack I have labeled as a calling station. This means they're going to be calling a lot pre-flop and post-flop. So he opens to $6. What should we do with ace jack of diamonds? Should we fold, call, or raise to 20?
Well, if he's a passive calling station and we have position on him, I like 3-betting.
So I gave folding a score of 0. This is never going to be a fold. This hand is way too strong. We're at least going to be flatting. I gave calling a score of 7 points. Calling is fine, but I think because of the fact that this player is a calling station, they're going to be calling our 3-bets really wide with a bunch of worse hands. So I think we could be 3-betting this for value here. So we raise it up to 20. We could go 18, but 20 is fine.
That's one of those ones. That's one of those things that in cash games, 18 is a standard 3-bet. Just go to 20 if you're live, because first of all, the bet looks so much bigger than it is, and it makes it easier. So this guy's a calling station. You kind of don't mind his calls. So I think just throwing in the 4 reds is far better.
And they are, and he decides to call. So the flop is King of Spades, Jack of Hearts, 2 of Diamonds. He checks. What should we do? Should we check, bet 20, or bet $30?
I think we're betting, and there's something to be said for betting 30 here, but honestly, we don't want to completely blow him off his hand. So I'm going to go with 20 here. I think it's a little bigger than a third, but it's fine. Ooh.
So this is a close spot between checking and betting. I gave checking a score of 8 points, bet 20 a score of 4 points, and bet 30
You punted last
a score
night,
of
Maz?
10 points. So if
Tell
you
me
don't
about it.
think that you're going to be able to get 3 streets of value, then you should be checking, right? But because this player is a calling station, they were calling down the river with 4th pair. I think we can bet this for value, especially because they are going to overvalue hands like pocket 3s on this flop.
Okay, yeah. Lexi's a much better cash game player than me. And she plays, the 1-2s and the 2-5s. And she's so well thought out. I just love her hand reviews with cash games. And she's right. If this player is going to overvalue and call, like she's saying a person at a 1-2 is a calling station, that's kind of a calls everything. So we can go for 3 streets of value and bet bigger here.
So I think that betting here is good, and I think 30 is a perfect size. So we go 30. If you're facing a calling station and you're betting for value, you should be sizing up because bet size isn't really going to deter them much, right? There's
Right.
not much of a difference between betting 20 and betting 30 to a calling station. If they have any piece of the board, they're going to be calling. So
That's
when
right.
you have it versus a calling station, you should be betting big. So we go 30, he calls. The turn is a 6 of clubs. He checks. What should we do? Should we check, bet 65, or bet 80?
I mean, this is one of those ones where you have to decide what's more likely versus a calling station. If we're putting in their range hands that call like 9s, 10s, 8s, 5s, 4s, 3s, ace deuce, 10 jack, queen jack, all those hands, and the fact that he could have a king sometimes, but a draw is more likely. A calling station will see not just queen 10 here, but they'll see 10-9 as a draw. You know what I'm saying? So or like queen ace as a draw. They're just going to have so much wider. So I'm going to go ahead and bet big again. Maybe we just get all our value now, and then we go check on a bad river. But I think this is a good one to size up as well because of the same reason she was talking about. Ooh.
So I think this is another close spot. This particular situation, I give checking a score of 10 points, bet 65 a score of 7 points, and bet 80 a score of 4 points.
Now, is she saying that because we only have second pair, or because she thinks we might lose the guy? So maybe it's not a 3 street value hand.
Now, you can bet the turn here, and you can possibly go for 3 streets of value. But if he did have a hand like pocket 3s or pocket 4s, maybe 5s, now he's probably going to be a little bit less inclined to call now that there's an overcard on the turn. If the turn had brought in some kind of draw, like a backdoor flush draw, I would be more inclined in continuation betting because he is probably going to be floating with a lot of backdoor draws. If it brought a straight card like a queen, I probably would check. So I think that checking here is fine. I think betting is okay if you think that you're going to get called by a hand like pocket 8s or jack 10, which you might. But I think this is a spot where we can check and reevaluate the river. So we check, and the river is an 8 of clubs. He checks. What should we do? Should we check, bet 65, or bet $95?
Like, this one has me all screwed up. I don't know what her perception is. I guess we missed bet value on the turn. Maybe we can go for value on the river, and it has to be smaller, I guess. So I'm going to go 65.
So here I gave checking a score of 6 points, bet $65 a score of 10 points, and bet 95 a score of 3 points. So I think that because we checked the turn.
Hey, what's up, Blizz? Is that Blizz? Yeah, we'll go with Blizz. How you doing, my man? Maz, tell me about the punt, man. What happened?
we should definitely be betting the river for value. I think that we're going to get called by hands like Jack 9 and Pocket 9s or something. So I do think that going 65 is a good size. I think if we go any bigger, we're probably going to get folds from those hands. So we go 65, he calls, and he has Jack 9 suited. So this is just a really good example of why you want to be 3-betting these calling stations with a wider linear range, right? Like you don't want to be 3-bet bluffing them pre-flop because they're just going to call and, have hands like Jack 9. Like you don't want to be 3-betting a hand like 6-8 suited versus a calling station, right? Because they don't like to fold. But when you do have a value hand or a strong hand, I think that you should be 3-betting them wider for value. So, so we pick up this pot, and that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next quiz. Bye.
I guess if you're not going to get 3 streets of value versus a pair, your best bet is to c-bet the flop, check the turn, and then get them to hero you on the river. So I agree. I haven't played cash in so long, though, man. And it's whatever. But I like it. I like it a lot. I think my turn bet works in this specific situation, but I think she's right. My poker game has been off. That and my luck has been total shit. I'm on a big losing streak and been donking so much. I have the best piece of advice you're ever going to hear. Take a break. Very hard for someone like me to do, who constantly has to be playing or whatever, but I've learned that if you feel like that, and if that's how you go into, like if you're going into a poker game saying that you've been off and your luck is shit and you're running bad and all like that, take a break, but make it an active break. Study. You know what I'm saying? Look up some poker vids on YouTube. If you have this site, pokercoaching.com, go ahead and dive through some of their quizzes like this. Just make yourself feel like you're improving your poker game while not playing, so you're not feeling the pressure of the money. You know what I'm saying? And these quizzes are great for that. But yeah, smart man, take a break. It took me over a decade of playing seriously before I realized that sometimes you just have to take a break and let the poker gods get off your back. Let's go to the next one.
Here we have the
a
lovely
Jonathan
ace
quiz.
king offsuit facing a min raise from the low jack seat, a call from the cutoff, and now with 40 big blinds in the small blind, we have to figure out what to do. Should we fold, call, re-raise to 1.8 million, or re-raise to 2.4 million?
Okay, well, this is a $1,000 buy-in, Party Poker UK mini mains 6 max. I hear the chainsaw in the background. Yeah, yeah. Courtney's still asleep. Yeah, but whatever. This is my bedroom. Mike's gotten a lot better. You guys aren't hearing anywhere near what I'm hearing. This is obviously a great squeeze spot. I think a standard 3-bet here would be, let's see, R150 plus the 250 here, 750, so plus 500 is 2.25, and we're going to go a little bit extra because we're in the small blind out of position. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and raise to 2.4. Hello all, I'm back for more abuse. Thought you'd really have to step up your game to dish out the abuse I received this week. Would you go to the series?
This is an interesting spot, and it's
interesting because of this player's stack. If this player calls now this bet, this player is more likely to go all in. Obviously, we rejam over that. And this is a loose aggressive player, so he's going to fold a ton here. So we're going to get a great price on this race.
probably a little bit dicier than a lot of people may think. A big mistake here is to re-raise kind of small to like 1.8 million, because then just both opponents are going to call you the vast majority of the time, and you're going to be out of position. So unless you flop pretty well, you're going to be in a bad spot. So I think calling is actually quite reasonable.
Interesting.
You may say, don't you like always want to 3-bet the ace-king offsuit? Yeah, usually you do. But in this scenario, 3-betting is also not especially great to any size. I mean, I guess you could just rip it all in for loads, but then mean, they're just going to fold every time, right? So I think your options here are 2.4 million, which would be roughly a pot size raise. To figure out a pot size raise, do 3 times the last bet, which would be 1.5 million, plus any additional caller, which would be 2 million, plus a little bit more if you're out of position, which would go up to maybe 2.4 million. Usually one additional unit is what you want to make it out of position. But even
I figure it out by a pot size bet being, if I put in my call, it makes it 500,000 plus 500 plus 500, that's 1.5, plus any additional money that's already in the pot, 2.5k, that's 17.5. Right, yeah, 17.5 or 1.75 million plus an extra blind. You know what I'm saying? So because we're out of position. So our call is the extra blind. So if you add all that up and put our call in, it comes out to 2.25. And then we just went a little bit bigger because we're out of position. You always raise it, a little bit more than that. So half a blind, is fine. It's just the way I do it from dealing pot limit Omaha. You had to learn this shit. You just count all the money, put in your call of that bet. So if the bets are 1, 1, 1, 1, so that's 3 players who've got 1 chip in there. Your call makes it 1. That's 4 chips out there. You add those up, your bet is 5 to make a pot size bet.
And then, making it 2.4 million is kind of rough, because if one player calls, we're going to have 7.5 left. Pot's going to be 5, so we have 1.5x pot remaining. It's also kind of rough if we miss the flop. That said, I do think we probably just want to re-raise this. If we re-raise this and get jammed on, clearly it's great. If we re-raise this and only the cutoff calls, it's fine, because he's going to be shallow. Calling's also fine, though. If you told me you called, I think it's reasonable. But against the loose aggressive player under the gun, you just want to be 3-betting. So we are going to 3-bet. We do make it 2.4. Both players call. Oh, boy. Flop comes Queen of Spades, 10 of Spades, 7 of Clubs. We have Ace of Clubs, King of Diamonds. Should we check, bet 2 million, bet 4 million, or go all in?
This is one of the probably worst flops we're going to see. I hate this. I'm checking. I know we 3-bet pre-flop, but checking can also seem really scary to these players. It is a multi-way pot. I think if it goes check, 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 we can bet small on turn and steal sometimes. But I hate betting here because the loose aggressive player, he's going to do whatever, but this player is the one I'm really worried about. He can definitely have a queen here. He can definitely have, a set very easily. Flush draw, the loose aggressive player is going to go apeshit. He's never going to fold. Let's see. No, I went to my uncle's memorial service and fucking nobody was wearing a mask except my brother and myself. There were people who said, I normally wear masks everywhere. It's just nice to not have to wear one. Don't get me started. We are 100 plus in the room and 2 masks. Dude, that sucks. Yeah, I couldn't have done it. I would have had to leave. I couldn't have done it. I don't care. I'm a brazen asshole, so I don't recommend this, but I don't think I would have stayed. Ugh. That's just rough. Yeah, so I'm going to check here.
This is a dicey spot, because if you think about both opponents' ranges, it should just nail this flop. Now, to be fair, my range should nail this flop too, but it doesn't really matter if the opponent's sitting here.
In a real world where 3 players nail the ranges nail the flop, if you don't have any of it and you're one of those 3, get the fuck out of the way. Because it's so likely that everybody has a piece of this, and we don't. So this is not one to get too crazy on.
Here with a queen or a good draw, right? They're just never folding. And the problem here is that the cutoff is very shallow compared to the pot. He has only a third pot or 2/3 pot left. Something like that. So we can't really expect our bluffs to ever succeed into 2 players. The only times we're going to be able to realistically bet and pick this up is when we're against just 2 total misses. I don't even know, find some total misses. Like pocket 9s and pocket 6s. We'll be able to get those to fold. But the odds of both opponents having exactly a bad pair, or maybe something like ace 9 of hearts, the odds of them having those specific combinations is pretty low. So I think we just have to check.
It's about 160 to 1.
Here, if we are going to bet, we probably want to bet small, like 2 million, with the idea that we are going to perhaps continue bluffing if under the gun calls. And if we bet 2 million and the cutoff goes all in, we obviously have to call it off for 2.6 more. So if you somehow get the vibe both your opponents miss this, I suppose betting small is fine, but you definitely don't want to go big in this scenario. I mean, I understand when you do get called, you're going to have some outs, usually 10 of them or 7 of them. Usually 7, not 10, because if you do get calls from me by something like ace king, ace queen, ace 10, king 10, etc. So you're going to be somewhat dominated. And 7 outs isn't really the end of the world, but at the same time, if you think you're just betting into reasonably strong ranges, you probably don't want to do that, so you'd rather just check. This time we do check. Betting 4 million is not good either, because then you just have half your stack in the pot. There's no point in that. You either want to be betting small or you want to be betting big. You're going to find that this like half stack bet is almost always not good. So check, check, check. Turn is now the 5 of hearts. Should we check, bet 2 million, bet 4 million, or go all in?
Oh, you did leave. That's good, man. And that sucks driving that far. This is pokercoaching.com. I believe it to be the best training site out there. There's just so much content. It's insane. It costs me... It's expensive, but it's nowhere near as expensive as the other sites. I locked in a price 2 years ago of about $650 a year, and I just pay it all at once. But they have sales all year long, although it's gone up. So I think I've locked in a pretty good rate. But yeah, there's stuff like these hand quizzes. There's over 1,400 of these, and they add new ones every day. There's the long form courses in here. Just the tournament masterclass alone, which will take you from understanding fundamental ranges to every stage of a tournament at every stack depth, all the way through from the start of the tournament to the final table. It's over 80 hours of video content. It's really fucking intense. And that's just one course. There's like 60 courses on here. This is Jonathan Little's poker site. I honestly think it's the best one out there. If you want to get better, just bite the bullet and pay for this site for a year. Do something on it every day, and you can't help but get better. This is the scenario where it goes check, check, check. We are most likely to have a queen by 3-betting or an overpair. We could have been looking for a check raise, right? If we had the aces with the ace of spades, I think I would have checked here and expected a bet and then check raised. I'm going to go ahead and bet small on the turn here because I think it looks really scary now into 2 opponents. So I'm going to go. Yeah, Jonathan Little. Yeah, really amazing player and might be an even better teacher. This is him actually doing this quiz on this one. So I'm going to bet 2 million here and go for squeezing showdown.
When it goes check, 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 you can certainly start to discount some premium hands from your opponent's ranges. The problem, though, is that how much can you actually subtract from your opponent's ranges? It's tough to know. Very, 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 very tough to know. Because sometimes when people check the flop, they have literally a hand worse than a 10. Whereas when other players check, they have very, very strong hands and some junk. If you think your opponents are always going to bet a queen on the flop, then it's becomes reasonable to bet. And kind of like on the flop, you don't really want to go 4 million. You either want to go big or you want to go small. And I think I would definitely prefer a smaller bet to a bigger bet to an all-in bet, because if you go small, you'll have some river fold equity against even both players. Because
the ace-king does have a lot of showdown value, so checking is still very reasonable.
there's a chance that cutoff calls with, like, I don't know, king-jack and then folds it to a river bet when he misses. Obviously, you don't care about king-jack so much, but maybe they call with ace-5 and then fold it if they miss the river. Maybe they call with 8-7 and fold it if they miss the river. It's tough to know. But still, I am just not convinced that both of these ranges completely miss the flop, and I really cannot count on anyone folding out any sort of 10 or better, maybe even a 7 or better at this point. So I'm just checking. If someone bets, I'm just folding, just giving up, unless they bet really tiny, like 1 million. Checks to again, river is a 2. Should we check? Bet 2 million, bet 4 million, or go all in?
Honestly, if I didn't bet the turn, I think we're just in bluff catch mode. So I'm going to go ahead and check here.
All right, when they both check twice, you have to think they either have total air or some sort of marginal made hand, right? So what are the marginal made hands, and can we get them to fold? Marginal made hands, to me, look like something like queen jack and worse. So will queen jack ever fold? Probably not. Will jacks fold? Maybe.
The jacks fold if they're here, but this is a loose aggressive player. I think we would have seen a bet.
Will ace 10 fold? Maybe. Will king 10 fold? Maybe. We have a lot of maybe.
I think 10. I think you only start getting into folds with pocket nines and maybe like a 10-9, but that would have to be here again because this player's not going to be calling that with his stack pre-flop. So I think those are the only situations where somebody's going to fold. That being said, king jack or a busted flush draw will bet. So I think we can check call.
Here, don't we? So for that reason, I think going all in is actually pretty reasonable, surprisingly reasonable. I'm pretty sure when I played this, I probably just immediately gave up because it's so easy for people if they're good just to be sitting here with a queen, because they realize that if a lot of money goes into the pot with a queen, if they're betting it and then they get called, they don't love it. But if someone bets, like in this scenario, if I bet, then a queen's actually pretty great.
Yeah.
So if you think they bet all their queens and better at some point earlier, which a lot of people will, you should probably go for a bluff here because their range is going to be something like pocket jacks and worse, or a 10 or worse. And against that range, you'll probably be able to get it to fold for a river jam. I do not like a smaller bet. I think a smaller bet would be really bad.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. When you bet medium here, Eric, you're not going to get enough folds. So if you're going to bluff here, the bet is all in. There's only 7.7 in the pot. We have 7.8. That's a 1-to-1 stack to pot ratio. I truly believe the only bluff here is all in. There's just, you can't bet small. You have to force the decision. So by betting anything less than all in here, I think you're giving up the ghost to a pair of pocket eights. Like, I think, and if you're going to bet big, you might as well just jam it. You know what I'm saying? If you had pocket queens here, or pocket tens or aces, you could absolutely play this hand this way. I did this 3 days ago in a multi-way pot from the big blind, not the small blind. And I did the exact same thing. Now, the board wasn't as dynamic on the flop, so checking was more advisable. The board was just all low cards. And I ended up jamming the river and got a fold from the first guy, and the second guy called me with fourth pair, but that's an idiot. He was just a donkey, and he pretty much didn't have any chips left. But I feel like he would have folded it if he had had a comparable stack to this player.
200 or 2 million at this point would be very bad because you're always going to get called by a 10 then. So either.
Yeah, I mean, I like the check or the bluff. And like he said, the bluff is all in. I think in this exact scenario, I like the check more because we are super deep. This is near the end of the tournament. It's a 6-handed tournament, so this isn't exactly the final table, but having players with 31 or 7.8 million with 31 big blinds, player here with 14.6. I mean, this is obviously near the end, if not the final table.
You want to go all in when you think you have some fold equity, or you want to check. Again, if you're playing live poker and you can just tell both these players are kind of checked out, you should probably go all in because if they're sitting here with pocket sixes, you really don't want to let them just see the showdown and win, right? The tough thing about ace king is that we actually do win some portion of the time, but I don't think it's often enough because you have to think if the opponents do have the small pairs, they're gonna get to this point.
It's an important distinction. This isn't online; it is live. I like the jam a lot more live because live you're going to get to look at people and see, like, if the guy's facing the table and he's staring at the board and whatever, you can jam into that guy all day and he's going to fold. If he's doing one of these where he's checking the score or whatever like that on some game, he's probably got you crushed. You're going to be able to tell most of the time on live play. Playing live, I like the bluff a lot more here.
And they're just going to fold to a river bet, right? So I think we probably do want to jam this against most people, but if you say check, I think that's fine. I don't think either option is especially attractive.
Now, if I had bet the turn like I wanted to small, I would have jammed this river 100% of the time. That's what I'm setting up. And I like those ones where we basically bet without betting the flop. You know what I'm saying? Like, we check the flop, we see no action, we bet small on the turn. It looks like we have something like ace, like king queen or something like that, and then the draws come along, or a pair of nines calls us, and then on the river when we jam for 5 million into, you know, whatever it is, like 11 or 9 or 11 million, then those hands can't call. You know, busted draws, second pair can't call either. It just looks like we want to get the money in too much. So I think there's a good dynamic nature to that bet here. People raise the stupid flag online. Yeah. Yeah, they do.
I think our hand does lack showdown value enough to where I think going all in is probably ideal. But again, like I know I'm flip flopping on this a lot because it's not a good spot, because whenever I check it twice, what good hands do I really have? I mean, would I really check ace queen twice? Probably not. Right. So if my opponents know I'm not checking my good hands until the river. Like, what good hand could I possibly have at this point? Like, my best hand is going to be. Remember, we 3-bet from the small blind.
King queen.
Queen jack offsuit or something.
Yeah, queen jack.
Do I really want to rip it in with queen jack offsuit? Not really. So perhaps if the opponents are good, we probably just have to give up. I don't know. I'm gonna get. I wish I could give both scores the right score. I'm gonna give checking the best score by a tiniest margin. Check gets 10. Going all in gets 9.9. And it is very player dependent, very situation dependent, because if, like I said, they're both kind of done with it, you definitely want to bluff. And if one of these players is obviously not folding, then you definitely do not want to bluff. So check, check, check. Under the gun wins with pocket nines. This is one of the hands obviously you would think would fold to a river jam. And winning this pot would have clearly been substantial. So maybe we let this one get away from us. But, you know, when you check the river, you got to presume you're just losing the hand. Because if they have these pairs, they're just always checking down. And if they have ace, jack, or worse, very often they would consider bluffing themselves. So when we check river, we know we're losing. But it's annoying to see this is one of the hands that we lose to, because this is one of the hands we could have gotten to fold most likely.
Yeah, I mean, I even said when betting small on the turn, pocket nines is going to take a card off, because they block all straight draws and shit like that. And if we don't have a queen or a 10, people are going to give up. I really like the small turn bet. Like, I might even go. Now, I guess 2 is the minimum. 2 million is what I would go. I think if you go 1.5, it just looks way too sketch, and it looks like you're saving too much for that river big bet. So I think if we bet 2 million on the turn, the pocket nines is definitely going to call. This player is a non-factor. He's out unless he has a draw. But if he has a draw, it's actually best for us, because he's going to call, and then on this river, we're going to jam anyway for 5.8 million into. If he calls, now it's 13.7. Sounds like it's, you know, an easy call, but it's really not. If you don't have at least a queen here, you're just giving up so much because we look super strong. So I like that play. I think I use it a ton at the stakes I play. You guys will see me do it tonight at least 10 fucking times. But in this exact scenario, this check, 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 check jam works, I think, like he said, a high percentage of the time. And I like that Jonathan Little, even though he couldn't make the decision, he said, you know what, checking's probably smart, but very close to the jam. And this is because of the actual real-world results. I think this is one where it tips it in that favor. And we're going to be up against more draws that don't want to get bet off of it. The loose aggressive player can have 8-9. He can have, you know, all draws. This player can have, you know, king,
All
jack.
right, and they both.
All that stuff. So, yeah. What time is it? It's 12:20. I was just going to... You know what? I'm going to call it here, because today's a play day. So about 2:30 or 3 o'clock Vegas time, I'm going to be coming back to put in the MTT grind all night. I'm going to pass you guys off to somebody. I think, yeah, I'll send you guys off to somebody. If you don't see me tonight, don't forget that every day at noon, by noon Vegas time, I do a Wake Up With Me stream. It's usually around 11:30, but noon at the latest. And we'll do some of this stuff. Can I PM you on Facebook between streams? I want to ask you something that may not be appropriate here. Yeah, go ahead, Eric. Yeah, I still follow you, man. You can still message me. Of course, bro. And you can always whisper me here if you want to ask something during the stream that you don't want people to know that I'm reading or something. But yeah, go ahead and message me, man. And I'll talk to you guys later, and I'll see you tonight. It's a play day for sure. So yeah, Sunday fun day. Or Saturday batter day? I don't know. See you later, guys.